That was magic to them. Well, of course, it was 19th century, and then Tesla. But instinct is something which transcends knowledge. So long story short, he made that impossible thing, and now it sits in every Tesla car. But then the war of current started. This is a grave of his parents. Nikola Tesla was a genius. He received 15 honorary doctorates and multiple awards. Most people know for his quote, "If you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, then you have a key to the universe." But very few people stop and notice something, and when you see it, you will smile. Why do I see 3 cables like everywhere? And outside of cities, why do I see 3 clusters of cables again and again? It's because we're using 3-phase current, and it was his idea. You see, Tesla had OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. He felt compelled to circle city block 3 times before entering a building. And he chose hotel rooms which are divisible by number 3. He died in a New Yorker hotel at 33rd floor in room 3327. Imagine a man at hotel and he says, "Hi, please give me a room that is divisible by number 3. Awkward? Yes, but at this point, no one is surprised what he worked on. It was divisible by number 3. And now I see 3-phase current, and each phase at angle of 120 degrees and 120 volts and 60 hertz. This is why people are saying that Tesla is still here with us. You see, Tesla calculated that the best power grid would be based on alternating current and 60 hertz and 240 volts. But there was a problem. The New York had a large network of direct current at 110 volts. And this is why Tesla lowered the voltage from 240 to 120 volts, due to compatibility. Since then, this is standard in the United States. It also means that New York needed AC-DC adapter. And now, every phone charger, laptop and such, you will see AC-DC thing. Fun fact, the band AC/DC was named by co-founders Malcolm and Angus Young. They saw the AC/DC on Sister's sewing machine. And European engineers agreed that 230 volts and 50 hertz is best in order to improve distribution efficiency. And of course in different countries, voltage ranges from 220 to 240 volts. But we know how it started. It started from Tesla calculation. So, can we see Tesla's calculation? We cannot. He solved it in his head, without pencil, without paper. In his student days, his professors at the university suspected that he cheated until they realized that Tesla memorized whole logarithmic tables. And this is why his calculations are rare. At this point it's clear, this man is a new level. And the best part is, he invented induction motor in 1887. They are used in Tesla car. In fact, that car is named after him. And later, in Madison Square Garden, back in 1898, he demonstrated first remote control boat. People thought that he used training monkey in that boat, until he opened that thing and just saw electronics. That was magic to them. Well, of course, it was 19th century. It was time of cowboys against Indians, stagecoach chasing and shooting, and then Tesla, showing people induction motor, remote control boat, and much more. In fact, Tesla held more than 300 patents worldwide. If you look at the list of his patents, people would expect that Nikola Tesla died as a wealthy man, but it happened like that. He died in debt. He didn't know anything about finances, and he lost his own $30 million. And last photo of Nikola Tesla, well, you can see it. He looks like borderline hungry. He died alone on Orthodox Christmas, on January 7th, 1943. And yes, he was raised as Orthodox Christian. No visitors, no one saying Merry Christmas. In fact, his body was found by a maid. What went wrong? Well, let's look into an amazing story of Nikola Tesla. In 1999, at 63 years old, he published a book, The Autobiography of Nikola Tesla, After his death, publishers changed the title to Strange Life of Nikola Tesla. This book will explain how and why has formed him into a legend. Nikola Tesla was born in Smiljan, Austro-Hungarian Empire, military frontier, now Croatia. His father was Milutin, he was Orthodox Christian priest, and his mother was Georgina. Her nickname was Duka, and she was a daughter of a priest. He had older brother Dane and 3 sisters, Milka, Angelina, and Maritza. When Nikola was 5 years old, his brother died in an accident. In 1862, the whole Tesla family moved to Gospic. His father was working as parish priest, while Nikola attended primary school. Interestingly, his primary school had 3 subjects: German language, arithmetic, and religion. The first presumption is he must have been a quiet kid. No, he wasn't. He was outspoken. In his book, he described how he fixed the fire department pump. Quiet kid would sit and watch, but he chose to help. He was clever. He unclogged their pump. So far, nothing to indicate that this kid will end up on their currency. And then it happened. In 1870, as 4 years old, in his high school. It's still here. Fun fact, his high school has a YouTube channel. It's right here. He saw electricity demonstration by his professors of physics. He was fascinated. In his own words,
"It is impossible for me to convey an adequate idea of the intensity of feeling I experienced in witnessing his exhibitions of these mysterious phenomena. Every impression produced 1,000 echoes in my mind. I wanted to know more of this wonderful force."
It was his passion, which explains how he graduated with honors from 4 years old course in only 3 years. He wrote, "I want to know more about this wonderful force." But his father saw that differently. In his book on page 2 it says,
"During all those years, my parents never wavered in their resolve to make me embrace the clergy, the mere thought of which filled me with dread."
It was 19th century. If you need light at night, it would come from candles or petroleum lamps. There was no cables, no wires. The electricity exists only in school. His father thought, "It is just fantasies, be practical." All his relatives were priests or officers. But again, no one has a magic mirror that tells the future. So it happened. After his graduation, he contracted cholera. And he wrote about it in his book.
"I contracted the dreadful disease on the very day of my arrival, and although surviving the crisis, I was confined to bed for 9 months, with scarcely any ability to move. My energy was completely exhausted, and for the second time I found myself at death's door. In one of the sinking spells which was thought to be the last, my father rushed into the room. I still see his pallid face, as he tried to cheer me in tones belying his assurance. 'Perhaps,' I said, 'I may get well if you will let me study engineering. You will go to the best technical institution in the world.' He solemnly replied, and I knew that he meant it. A heavy weight was lifted from my mind, but the relief would have come too late, had it not been for a marvelous cure, brought through a bitter decoction of a peculiar bean. I came to life like Lazarus, to the utter amazement of everybody."
Let's remember, he is the son of a priest. He is referring to Jesus, who raised Lazarus from the dead. So he could say without cholera, there would be Tesla car. Yes, I know it sounds horrible, but it's a fact. His father wanted to be a priest, and cholera changed his mind. So Nikola went to Graz, at Imperial Royal Technical College. He enrolled in 1875 on military frontier scholarship. He started really good. In fact, the first year he got the idea for brushless motor. We can see the famous scene, Professor Poschel are demonstrating electric motor, and Tesla wrote about it. The brushes gave trouble, sparking badly. And Nikola said something like, "How about brushless motor?" And Professor Poschel, after a long lecture, "Why is it impossible?" he said, "Mr. Tesla may accomplish great things, but certainly will never do this impossible idea." And Tesla wrote about that. "For a time, I wavered that idea. impressed by professor's authority. But he added, but instinct is something which transcends knowledge. So long story short, he made that impossible thing, and now it sits in every Tesla car. On the first year of university, he passed 9 exams. He worked hard, maybe too hard. He wrote that he worked at 3 o'clock in the morning and continued until 11 at night. And that is a problem. The dean of university wrote to his father saying, "Your son is a star of first rank, but he's working too much. That could affect his health." So when he came home for a short rest, his father wasn't impressed for his certificate. He was more concerned about his health. He had to remind him about his narrow escape from death. And Nikola wrote about it. That almost killed my ambition. This is heartbreaking part. On the next paragraph he wrote, "I had veritable mania for finishing what I began, which often got me into difficulties." In fact, he described his obsessive-compulsive disorder. He read 100 books of Voltaire he didn't enjoy. Because he began, therefore he must finish it. And he drank 72 cups of black coffee per day. Very likely the obsessive-compulsive disorder is the reason why he didn't graduate from university. In fact, he wrote about it. "At a certain age, I contracted mania for gambling, which greatly worried my parents. So long story short, he didn't show up at university, he didn't show up at home. His father was looking for him, and he found him. Nikola came home, he tried again at university, didn't work out. At this point, Tesla moved to Budapest, Hungary, in 1881 to work for Budapest Telephone Exchange. His boss, Mr. Puskas, recognized his practical experience, and he offered Tesla a job in Paris. So in 1882, Tesla worked for Continental Edison Company in Paris, France. He was so successful that in 1884, manager Charles Batchelor asked Tesla to move to the United States. The same year, Nikola emigrated and he worked for Edison Machine Works. After 6 months, he quitted. We can see it from his book. Tesla designed 24 different types of standard machines, which replaced the old ones. He did it because manager promised $50,000 on completion. And when he completed it, it turned out to be a practical joke. And Edison said, "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor." And Tesla resigned. And he went to patent attorney for his arc lighting system. An attorney knew businessmen, more than one, that would help him financially, and they formed Tesla Electric Light and Manufacturing. But it was too competitive, and they abandoned Tesla. He was penniless. He had to dig ditches as day laborer. But in a ditch, he met Western Union superintendent. He knew investors that could help him, and of course to make money on his expertise. So they set up Tesla Electric Company. Now, remember Professor Poschel with the electric motor sparking? Well, the same problem still exists, and by then, electric motors were spreading. When motor is too sparky, you need to repair it by replacing brushes by professionals. That sounds expensive, and Tesla's idea of brushless motor hit the spot, especially for George Westinghouse. As a businessman, he was very interested. You need alternating current for brushless motor. Therefore, you can sell electricity as well, and Tesla knows how to make generators. In 1888, Westinghouse and Tesla signed a contract. Tesla received $60,000, which is equal to $1.8 million in today's money. And he received 150 shares of stock and $2.50 as royalty per horsepower. And it gets better. Tesla got a job for Westinghouse that paid him $2,000 per month. That is equal to $60,000 in today's money. At this point, Tesla was rich and famous. By the year 1891, he was 35 years old, and he has been estimated to be $1 million worth. In today's money, that would be $30 million. But then the war of current started. Imagine a world where electricity is just for rich people. If Edison won, this world would be completely different. Edison wants money.
I hope you brought your checkbooks.
And he knows that direct current can only reach 1 mile, which means you need a generator at every mile in the cities that are fueled 24/7. In other words, this is just for rich neighborhood. Edison's propaganda campaign was based on direct current is safer, alternating current is dangerous. So he electrocuted animals in public, and he made electric chair. People didn't know too much about electricity. They believed him. But in the end, the alternating current is better and cheaper. It can reach hundreds of miles. Plus, Tesla and his high voltage demonstration helped a lot. But then in 1891, there was financial difficulties. You see, Westinghouse money wasn't entirely Westinghouse money. The banks are his lenders, and they didn't like to see excessive spending. So he came to Tesla explaining the situation. If Tesla doesn't lower his royalties, the banks will take Westinghouse company. And Tesla tore the contract. Westinghouse paid Tesla for his patent for a lump sum of $216,000. That is $6.5 million in today's money. But no more monthly royalties. After all, he had $36 million in today's money. Now, if he knew enough about finances, he could have a comfortable life, but he didn't care about money. But anyway, on July 30, 1891, Tesla became citizen of the United States. Fun fact, Nikola Tesla had a nickname. His mother called him Ninja. So, with his US passport, in 1892, he came to Europe to lecture about experiments with alternating current. In Paris, he received a telegraph. It's from his uncle Peter, telling him that his mother is seriously ill. He cancelled a second lecture and he rushed. Her last words to him, she said, "You are a ninja, my pride." And she died. This is a grave of his parents. He paid for it. We can see it. Grateful son, Nikola. After his mother died, Tesla toured various European countries, but eventually he returned to New York. At this point, he continued with his experiments. That was costly, and of course, patent attorneys are expensive. Little by little, he spent $30 million. He was in debt. But karma apparently works, because Westinghouse paid for his hotel bills. He would never forget the time when Tesla helped him to save his company by tearing the contract, thus giving up his monthly royalties. As for Wardenclyffe Tower, this is where it stood. We can see concrete foundation of it. In his book, there is no word about Wardenclyffe. He called it my project. And we know his views of the tower. He is very mature. He doesn't blame anyone. Long story short, he says that laws of nature has slowed his project. And he wrote, the world was not prepared for it. It is too far ahead of time. And he believes that someone will reach his goal and make a triumphal success. He is at peace, we can see it. He wrote, while my orders, diplomas, degrees, gold medals and other distinctions are packed away in old trunks. He was at peace and he's gone. His ashes are in a sphere in his museum in Belgrade. Again, this is a small documentary about Nikola Tesla and why intelligent people are not necessarily rich. What are your thoughts about it? Should we teach in our schools about Tesla? Leave your comments. If you enjoyed this video, click that like button and share the video. Tell everyone there was a war of currents.